Hello Ratbags, it's Jade PlaySGames back again with part 2 of ARK settings. I'm so sorry it's taken so long to get this video out to you guys. I wanted to get this one done as quickly as I could, but my channel blew up and everything just went a bit crazy, and it was Christmas, so I never got a chance to finish part 2 as I was doing so many news videos for ARK. But I'm here, it's here, I'm going to go through all the different settings I didn't show in part 1. So in part 1 we did look at general and we looked at world settings. They were the ones that were probably the most useful for them sections. I didn't want to confuse anything else with them. That was quite a big video. If you've not seen that already, go and check it out. It gives you loads of information about what all these sliders do. Part 2 is going to be about rules, stats and more. Now this is in fact the third time I've recorded this second part 2. The first time something was wrong with my sound settings, and then the second time I spent over 2.5 hours recording and I just lost all momentum, forgot where I'd cut things, edited things, because it does take a while to do types of videos like these. So bear with me guys, I'm so sorry, it's coming now, let's get on with it. Now, thing to remember, lots of these settings in rules really only apply if you're running a dedicated server. If you're playing on just a non-dedicated or single player server, you might not want to touch hardly any of these next settings I'm about to talk about, because they really don't apply unless you're running a dedicated server. No matter what server you run, whether it's a dedicated, a non-dedicated or a single player, these settings take effect for every single server. So if you ever want to switch from hosting a dedicated server to a non-dedicated server, you will need to change these settings if you had it previously adjusted. And if you don't understand about servers and what differences between dedicated and non-dedicated, go and check out my video explaining what they do. It's got over 75,000 views, so go and give it a look and it will explain exactly what all the servers are. Okay, enough waffle caking, let's crack on. Auto PvE timer. By clicking this on, you set a certain time that PvE will actually begin or end. Whenever you load up this server, whenever you load up ARK, ARK assumes you want it to be PvP. The only way to stop it being PvP, even in a single player where you play just on your own, is to put PvE mode, tick that button. So if you're on a non-dedicated world where you can have up to 7 of your friends join and you don't want anyone being able to kill each other, you need to click PvP mode on. But maybe you run your PlayStation or your Xbox a lot, and maybe you want players to be able to join you, and maybe you do want to have a certain amount of time when PvP is allowed. This is how you use the PvE timers. You tick this box on, and then you simply decide whether or not you're going to use the Xbox or the PlayStation time to set when PvP takes place. If you don't set this box in, you will actually use the settings that are set under World. And you can see the day times, the night times, etc. These are the ones that it will use. My best advice is don't do that. Use your system's time to use the clock for PvP settings. Next we've got the actual times that you can start it. So it says auto PvE start time in seconds. Now it does it in seconds, not minutes, not hours. So 0.0 actually means midnight if you've got this ticked on. So if you want PvE to start at midnight, you would leave it exactly how it is. Then you've got to put what time you want it to finish. So if you tap right once, 4,320 seconds is 1 hour, so it would be 1 AM in the morning. If you keep going right, it would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 AM in the morning. So you can decide what time you want PvE to end. Now not most people will have PvE start at midnight. If you're running a server like that, you probably want PvE to run during the day, and then between sort of 7 and 12 o'clock at night you might want it to be PvP so all your friends can play. So again, you would have to make sure you put the right start time. So you would go right again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 PM in the afternoon. That's when you're saying you want PvE to start. And again, if you want it to stop, you simply make sure you put it at the right time. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you're not running a dedicated server, you really don't need any of these settings turned on. Simply just untick them and don't use them at all. But if you are running a dedicated server, it's a really great way to make sure it runs without you having to adjust settings or take your server offline to redo it. PvE allow tribe war. Simply put, whenever you're in PvE, your friends or your tribes can actually declare war on each other by going up to each other and holding the triangle button or the yellow button. When you hold it, it'll bring up the wheel and you can decide whether or not you want to declare war on another tribe. If that tribe accepts, it's basically like saying let's have a fight and we'll do it and we'll finish it when we want. You can also cancel the tribe fight at any time too, simply by ticking this box in. So if your server's a PvE server but you want people to be able to start fights with each other if they want, then simply put both of these on. But again, if you're playing a non-dedicated world where it's just you and your friends and you don't want anyone to be able to do anything like that, make sure they're ticked off. Disable PvE gamma. In PvE, if you don't want people being able to use the cheat where you can use the gamma turned up high to see in the night time, then you simply tick that box. That way people can't just run around at night time, they'll have to actually either wait till the morning or use lots of torches. Allow cave building PvE. Generally you can't build near caves or inside the cave entrances because it will stop other players from getting artifacts. There is ways around it and there are ways you can turn it off. You can allow cave building in PvE if you want to, simply by ticking this, and it means people can build bases or in or around cave entrances. Allow flyer carry PvE. Like I said, in PvP normal mode you can run around and you can pick other players up and drop them. In PvE you can't do this. So you have to tick this box if you want your friends to be able to pick you up with their RGs or their Pteranodons or their dragons. But be warned, I ran a dedicated server on Xbox and I had this on, and it was a PvE server, but there were lots of trolls that would come around and pick people off and drop them. When they done this, we banned them instantly, but it took a long time to get evidence. We had to ask people to record footage or take screenshots. So generally only leave this on if you trust people on your server that they're not going to be trolls and go around killing people. Of course, the other benefit of having this on as well is that your dinosaurs will be able to pick up other dinosaurs. So it makes taming a lot easier. If you don't have this on, you can't go and use a quetz to go and pick up other creatures and dump it into a holding area where you can tame it. So think carefully about what you want to do. If you're doing a non-dedicated world or single player world, I would always tick this on, so that means that your dinosaurs can pick up dinosaurs and take them to elsewhere. Disable structure decay PvE. Disable structure decay PvE. By ticking this, you make sure none of your buildings get degraded over time. The normal settings for ARK are that when you build something or you place a structure down, after a period of time that building will actually need repairing or it will risk being destroyed or disappearing. By ticking this on, you can stop that happening in a PvE server. So very useful if you're playing with your friends on a non-dedicated world and you're trying to build lots of things. If you have your server open to anyone to be able to join, you may not want to have this on. That way, if anyone puts something down that you don't like, you can just simply leave it a certain amount of days and it will soon disappear. But generally I leave it on for my servers. PvE structure decay period. You can increase the amount of time that an item or structure will take to decay. By putting it to the right, it will take even longer for that item to decay, and by putting it all the way to the left, it will take a shorter amount of time. The default is actually 1. And I do believe in game days that is 7 days in game. So by increasing it, you're increasing it how many days longer your structure or your item that you place can stay on your map. If you put it all the way to 0, it won't simply mean it will be destroyed as soon as you place it. It just restricts it. I think it brings it down to 5 days. Go ahead and test this one out and let me know if I'm right. Disable Dino Decay PvE is exactly the same thing. After a certain amount of time, your dinos will become untamed if you leave them. By ticking this on in PvE, it means your dinosaurs won't have to worry about them being untamed. You can leave them as long as you want and you won't come back and find them just running around wild. But the same thing applies. If you want to increase it, maybe you do have this off and you want to make sure that people eventually have to come and check on their dinosaurs on your server, then make sure you can put it all the way to the right and you increase the amount of time the dinosaurs will be on the server before they become untamed. Enable extra structure prevention volumes. This basically stops people from building around resource rich areas, particularly where there's lots of metal. So on the island it would be around the volcano, and on the centre map it would be around Batman's skull. It's a good idea to have this on, especially if you run a dedicated server. It stops tribes from hogging these areas and stopping other people from getting to the resources. Otherwise, if you plan on non-dead, leave it off and you can build a base nearby. Prevent tribe alliances. This basically stops tribes being aligned with each other. If you have this one on, it means tribes can't actually be aligned with each other in alliances. So they'll have to actually go and make big, massive mega tribes. If you have it off, it means your tribes can become pally with each other and change as and when they want without losing all of their tribe benefits. PvP zone structure damage. Remember when I said that you could build near caves or inside cave entrances? With this multiplier turned all the way to the right, any player can go up and damage the bases or structures that people build, and it will do far more damage. This is to stop people, like I said, blocking people from cave entrances or artifacts. You can reduce the damage that you are able to do by putting it all the way to the left, so it takes absolutely no damage. But otherwise, if someone's built something inside a cave, by putting it all the way to the right, it'll only take 1 or 2 hits and you'll destroy whatever they've built. Increase PvP respawn interval. These settings are to stop people from instantly dying, respawning and attacking another base. By putting this on and changing some of these sliders, you can increase the amount of time that it takes for someone to respawn, so they'll think about it carefully before running in. You can change the time it takes, or you can reduce it. Again, it's only really useful if you're running a dedicated PvP server. If you're doing a non-dedicated server, there's no point in touching any of these settings. Increase PvP respawn interval multiplier does the same thing again. Every time you die, if you increase this, it increases the amount of time you have to wait each time you die. The one below it increases the amount of time it actually takes for you to respawn. Honest to God, do not touch these settings unless you are running a dedicated server. There is absolutely no point unless you want to troll your friends by killing them and making them wait up to 10 or 15 minutes to respawn. Just remember that obviously if you put it to the left, it means players will be able to respawn as quickly as possible. But for me, I would never have this on if you're playing with just your friends on your non-dedicated server. Structure prevent resource radius multiplier. In part 1 I showed you world settings, no resource radius players, no resource radius structures. You could change how far growth actually grows back depending on where your player is or where a structure is. So you can change it so you can have trees and bushes grow right close to your base, or you can increase it and you can make things spawn miles away. Well, in rules you're actually dictating how long it takes for something to respawn, not how far it takes to respawn. So by increasing this all the way to the right, you are actually making it longer for something to respawn. So where on a normal setting it might take 1 game day for a rock to appear near your base where you've just harvested it, if you increase it, it could take up to 6 or 7 days. This can be a real problem if you get this wrong and you're hosting a dedicated server. I have made a mistake like this on Scorched Earth. I had this up way too high and everyone started complaining that there was no wood left on the server because every time someone was harvesting the wood near their base, it got further and further away from them to go and get some more wood, because I'd put this all the way to the right, so no other wood resources were respawning. I generally put this all the way to the left, just usually about a 0.6 or 0.3. This means that things will respawn fairly quickly, but not so quick that you're constantly taking out the same rock or the same tree or the same bush. Prevent diseases. Simply put, click it and you'll stop anyone getting any type of disease. Non-permanent diseases, the same thing goes. Click it and you won't have any non-permanent diseases. Prevent offline PvP. Again, only useful if you've got a dedicated server, but it stops people from destroying someone else's base or raiding on another base while they're not actually in game. By ticking it, you're stopping people raiding unless that person's actually online. Prevent offline PvP interval. When someone logs off, you can change how long it will take for their base or their structures or dinosaurs not to be raided against. So if you have it at 0, it means as soon as they log off, you won't be able to raid their base or take their dinosaurs. If you increase it, you can actually make it that people can raid and take people's dinosaurs or attack them, simply just by putting whatever time you want to put in. Again, it's not useful if you're not running a dedicated server, so make sure you have it ticked off. False allow cave flyers. On the centre map, there are lots of big caves where you can fly in your creatures. If you don't have this ticked, it means that you will get booted off your flying creature as soon as you enter one of these caves. The island isn't as bad, as there's not as big caves, they don't have the same sort of structures. But you can still use flyers to go in these caves very quickly and easily to gain the artifacts. I generally like having these on, but if you don't want anyone to bring any dinosaurs into these caves, particularly flying ones, then make sure you leave it off. PvP Dino Decay. Simply put, in a PvP server, it means your dinosaur won't decay and it won't necessarily become untamed once you've tamed it. By leaving it off, it means the dinosaur will decay over time and it may possibly become untamed after a length of time. You generally have to feed your dinosaurs to stop this happening. Override structure platform prevention. This is the setting you change if you want to put lots of plant species X's or turrets on a dinosaur that has a platform. By ticking this on, you can place as many of these things as you can fit on the platform. If you don't have it on, you won't be able to place any turrets or any plant species X on any platforms. They have nerfed some of this recently on PC, and I haven't had the chance to actually try it on Xbox or PlayStation yet, so let me know whether or not it still works, that you can still put plant species X on platforms like a Quet's platform. But again, I normally leave it on. That is rules taken care of. Let's go and take a look at stats. There are 4 parts to stats that can increase and make your game much easier. It basically OPs your dinosaurs depending on what you do with them. The first one is wild dino stats per level. These are the stats of all the wild dinosaurs in the game. If you want to make your dinosaurs in your game always have higher oxygen, simply move it all the way to the right. Whenever you tame them, it means that they'll have even better oxygen levels. And obviously you can do this on any of these stats, but be warned, if you do something like damage and you put that higher so that you can get better dinosaurs once you've tamed them, they will have that damage against you before then, so you could make dinosaurs very hard to take on. I find this one the most useful for weight. I pump weight a lot. I don't like mucking around with inventory. I don't like spending my life deciding what I'm going to keep, so I always put weight on. You do tame dino stats per level. Every time you level up your dinosaur, you can increase one of the stats in it. Normally, each stat is worth 10 points. There are some that are worth 15, but generally most of them are 10 points. By increasing this, you're increasing how many points you can get every time you level up. So I've just made that 2.2 in stamina, which means now I'll get 20 points at least. So again, you can make your dinosaurs really high powered by simply moving some of these over, so that every time you level up, you can level them up even more. But be warned, because you could possibly make these OP very easily. And by changing these sliders, you do change all your dinosaurs you've currently tamed already. Tame dino add per level. Now this is a bit controversial, it's taken much more research and I've tried it in game. Please correct me if you think I'm wrong, but as far as I can tell from testing it out, tame dino add per level is the bonus efficiency you get when you're taming a creature. You'll notice in the bar when you're taming a creature, the efficiency bar comes up and it says a percentage underneath it, like 99%. Normally if you use a perfect tamed method like perfect kibble, you knock it out in the right way and you wait until it's hungry to speed up the tame, you will get a 99.9% perfect efficiency. When you do that, you get bonus levels. That's why everyone bangs on about getting a perfect tame creature. It's worth it because the levels that you can increase are massive. This is where you can change how much you actually get every time you do that. So if you do a perfect tame, or you've got a very high level efficiency tame, if you change some of these, you'll increase how much of a bonus stat it increases it by. So maybe you want to reward yourself for always doing perfect tames or getting very high tames, then by moving these up you'll increase exactly what bonus stats it gets once it's tamed. Tamed dino stats affinity. Now again, this has been one that I've had to research a lot. As far as I can tell, it's the bonus stats that certain dinosaurs get when they become tamed. Certain dinosaurs get extra stamina, certain dinosaurs get extra damage or speed. Well, you can make it that they increase that even more by moving these sliders to the right. You'll have to have some knowledge of other dinosaurs that you're looking to try and increase their bonus stats. As a rule of thumb, if you want to increase the amount of stats in your dinosaur, generally you only use this one here, the tame dino stats per level. If you want to make the game a little bit harder, or you're trying to make the game a bit more interesting, then go ahead and use this one here, the wild dino stats per level. By making it a little bit higher to the right, you are making dinosaurs harder to actually tame or kill. But you will be rewarded that once they are tamed, you will increase their stats and levels. So that's stats done, let's take a look at more. Player max experience points. You can simply change how many levels your player can level up. Now, this has been extremely buggy on Xbox in the past. I still don't think it actually works on Xbox or PlayStation yet. It's not a question of just typing in 100, as there are like 100 levels in the game. It refers to the total amount of XP you need to earn to get to level 100. I do believe it's something really stupid like 500,000 XP. Even so, I don't think this works. I've tried limiting this before. I've tried putting something like only 20,000, thinking that it wouldn't allow anyone to level up past level sort of 10 or 20, but it did not work. So for now, ignore it. Same goes for Dino Max experience points as well. If you know any different or you know a way to combat that, let me know in the comments section. Allow custom recipes. Simply put, in a cooking pot you can put loads of different things in there and you can make all sorts of crazy concoctions. The custom recipe effectiveness will give you buffs and bonuses whenever you make food. And the custom recipe skill factor again is very similar in terms of that if you put it to the right, both of these sliders will increase how much that food does for you. So some of the food increases your stamina, endurance, some of the food will make you breathe underwater. Custom food isn't something a lot of people use in ARK. Not as for my experience of playing the game for a year. I've only seen one tutorial done by it, the Glowhoo penguins, and it was a really good tutorial. If you guys would like me to explain a little bit more about custom recipes, let me know in the comments section and I'll do a separate video. Flyer platform unaligned basing. This basically means you can build huge, massive structures on flying platforms. By ticking it on, you can build almost a mini little castle on a platform. By ticking it off, you won't be able to build that much. Passive defense hurt riderless dinos. This is another pointless one I don't see having on. It just means that dinosaurs that haven't got a rider that are tamed can take damage from fence spikes. So why would you want your dinosaur being able to be damaged by accident because it's running away from a predator, simply because it runs into a fence post or a fence? So never leave this on. Only allows specified engrams. This does not work on console. This is a PC only. You have to type in over 50 or 60 different commands, maybe even more, to limit or change the engrams. It's meant to work that you could possibly only have a primitive plus sort of style server where you won't allow certain engrams. But it does not work, guys. You can see here I've tried earlier. You're meant to be able to enter different lines of code in this and it will take effect. But as far as I know, none of them work. Again, if you know different, let me know. But after lots of research into this, I cannot find any way to actually restrict or enable certain engrams in the game. Now we're going to take a look at the player stats per level. Just like the stats for the dinosaurs, you can change the starting stats for players and how much they gain when they gain a level. I generally have my weight massively OP, like I've explained before. I don't simply put it to 6.1, I will put it at 5,000. You can agree or disagree with that, that's up to you. But it's my game and that's the way I like playing it. It means I'll never have to worry about weight, and that's how I can carry so many resources so I can do building. The rest of them I don't really touch that much, but generally speaking, if you increase it, you're increasing how many points you're actually putting into that one specific stat. So health is at 1.0, if I put it up to 4, it means every time I level up I will get 4 times the normal amount of health. And again, just like the dinosaurs, I do believe it's usually 10. So just by putting that to 4.0, I should get 40 points of health every time I level up. So you can quickly make OP players simply by putting these up. But play around the settings, let me know what ones you use, what ones you prefer having just boosted. Generally in the past I've always had things like oxygen boosted a little bit. And like I said, weight's another one, and temperature fortitude so that I'm not always cold or too hot. And all it does mean is that when you do level up in one of these, it will immediately go really high, so you don't have to worry about it as much. Whenever you put weight really high like I've done there, as soon as I put one stat point into weight, it will increase it massive amount. Max players in tribe. Simply put, you can stop the amount of players joining a tribe. Show floating damage text. Whenever you take on a creature, you will see damage points appear above it if you tick this on. I do believe you can change this in game now as well. XP multipliers. You can change how much experience you get for each individual act. So killing someone or a creature, harvesting, crafting, and specials like taking on bosses. The normal stat is 1.0, but you can increase it to anything you want, or you can make the game harder and actually decrease it. By doing this, you could encourage people to do more crafting, so you could put the crafting XP up really high. Or if you want to reward yourself for taking out a boss, maybe put the special all the way to the right so that you get a huge amount of XP when you take out one of the bosses. Allow raid dino feeding. Whenever you tame a Titanosaur or a special raid creature, it has a timer. Particularly on official maps, it's important that it has a timer so that people can't just keep these dinosaurs infinitely. If you run a dedicated server, or if you want a non-dedicated server and you want to keep your Titanosaur forever, then by ticking this on you should be able to keep feeding it. And the more that you can keep feeding it, then that way it will stay on your server. But it matters what you put this next one on, the Raid Dino Food Drain Multiplier. its default is normally 1.0. If you put this to the right, you'll actually make it runs out of food quicker, and if it runs out of food, it means it will become unspawnable or untamable again. So if you want to reduce the amount of time that people can use a Titanosaur on a dedicated server, you would put this all the way to the right, and you wouldn't necessarily click that on so they couldn't feed it. If you want people to be able to try and keep their Titanosaur, click that box and actually put it all the way to the left. This way it stops the dinosaur actually being hungry or needing food, and you should be able to keep the Titanosaur. Now this has been a bit glitchy in the past, and this does refer as well to things like the dragon. And other creatures that you can spawn in using admin commands. They generally disappear after a certain amount of time. So play around with these settings and let me know how it went for you. But like I said, that's the one I would try if you're trying to keep special creatures like the dragon on your server, or the Titanosaur from despawning. And there you go guys, that has been a phenomenal amount of time I've done on this. I have actually recorded server setting tutorials 3 times now. I've done the first one nearly a year ago, and that is the one that had the most amount of views for ages. They updated it a few months later, and I've done another 2 server settings in part 1 and part 2, so it has been a good while since I've covered some of these. As ever, if any of them are slightly wrong or I've got some wrong information, please let me know in the comment section, and just understand it takes a long time to go through all of these. It takes a long time to go and tell you guys what all of these do. Occasionally I will make a mistake just because I've forgotten something or I've got mixed up with one of them. For all your guides and tutorials, make sure you hit like and share on my videos, and I'll be back with any more changes to any of these server settings. If you do want more individual guides for any of these, let me know and I'll think about doing separate videos for them. I'm Jade PLAYSGAMES, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you later.